Hello and welcome. Today we've got Lewis Herms and we are going to be discussing Will Smith and Chris Rock, the RICO law and the emergency broadcast system. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Lewis can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Lewis, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
I'm phenomenal. And I've been up to digging and more digging. And I'm so excited because we're uncovering things and we truly are in March Madness. In fact, I'll be doing a show later this week about March Madness because everything that's been revealed this month will blow us away. So it's fun. Now, of course, there's people that are still suffering and hurting, and I always empathize with that. But, you know, you have to take the good with the bad. And right now, there's a lot of good that we need to focus on also.
Absolutely. Now, I was reading more about what happened on the Oscars with Will Smith hitting Chris Rock because he made a joke about his wife, about her head being shaved. I think she's got alopecia. She suffers from alopecia. And Will Smith got really angry, got up and hit him. Now, and some people say this was fake. I was reading and I found out that Chris Rock didn't write that joke. It was the writers that wrote that joke for him to say. And Chris Rock also had no intention or no knowledge that his wife was suffering from alopecia. Do you think that this was written possibly by the white hats to destroy the BLM narrative that the white billionaires who are very higher up, racist, who are creating these propaganda narratives to divide and conquer?
Well, I will never say something I don't know. So I don't know. But what I will say, which I find pretty interesting, is it seems like everything, we'll go through this today, almost everything we hear about has intentional multiple narratives. So there's no one single narrative with any event that goes on. So to give you an idea in regards to that, absolutely the white hats could have been involved and it would help take these knuckleheads down. But there's a couple of things I've noticed in that. First, if you noticed, Will Smith was laughing until he looked over to his wife, which is probably about 6 to 8 feet to the left. He wasn't even next to his wife. And she had like a scowl on her face. Now, I don't know. Maybe the person next to Will Smith was his controller for all I know, his handler. But what I do know is I actually wanted to be a stage actor a long time ago and then a director of films later on. So I was actually in school for acting at one time. And I can tell you, I learned how to do stage combat and stage slapping. And whether Chris Rock, by the way, I'm not even quite sure that was Chris Rock. That dude looked completely different from the Chris Rock that I've seen before. But let's assume what we see is going on. So there could be the white hat narrative, but you know what? The narrative that's very, very obvious to me is they want to deflect from everything that's going on. And we're going to talk about everything going on now because it's looking really bad for the deep state. And as I mentioned in our last video, the deep state takedown is absolutely in progress. And it's very clear. So that's a great diversion tactic of theirs. But let's go back to the slap itself. So what I did notice is I noticed that even though Chris Rock said he wasn't expecting it, he leaned into it. By the way, that's what you're supposed to do in a stage slap. You're supposed to lean into it so you have more movement to move back and away, right? It actually prevents you from getting harmed. When you're fully extended and you can't move at all, that's when people get hurt. So you're supposed to be leaned in like that. I also noticed the stance of Will Smith. And then I noticed when his hand slap, the way you're supposed to do it is your hand's supposed to be back at an angle like this. And that's exactly what he did. So it wasn't a full force. So you can make an impact and it's supposed to graze off the face and then they're supposed to react. So maybe it was real and maybe these guys are so versed in this fake slapping BS, but that was a stage slap. Seen it many, many times. And that's how it was handled. So in my opinion, it was a diversionary tactic from everything's going on. If you also look, there's a lot of weird symbolism in the background going on with with the triangles and pyramids and so on and so forth. So I really don't know, but I know we're in the middle of a fog of war, and there's multiple narratives with everything that's going on. So it sure looked really bad for Hollywood. That's for sure. The fact that no security guard would have apprehended him, or nobody would have tried to arrest him or even fine him, or even a police officer talk to him, makes an indication that somebody would have told the cops that were there, that may have wanted to intervene later, that, oh no, it's just for fun. It's just the stage slap. It's part of the show. So to me, it was definitely calculated. That's my opinion. Either that, or he's just a nut job that overreacts.
I mean, unless they were used, like the writers did make that joke, so Chris Rock could say it, Will Smith can lose his temper. So it was real, but it was planned,
or maybe half planned. Maybe Chris Rock didn't know and Will Smith knew about the whole thing.
Maybe so. Maybe it was completely planned. But going back to what you were saying about laughing, Will Smith laughing, he seems to me that he's got that type of character or personality that when he gets angry in public, he would start laughing from his nerves. Because some people they try to mask their anger by laughing. And then he just exploded, walked up and just hit him. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think if it's real, that's viable. I just don't know that it was real.
The other thing was that all of the, I think the US and, other countries, they edited that part out. And the only country, as far as I read, was Australia that aired the whole thing. What do you think about that?
Well, that's normal, isn't it?
Well, if it's staged, you would just allow it to just, be shown, right? What do you think?
I don't know. But the thing, though, is when I say stage, I don't believe that it doesn't matter. The cameramen and some of the directors and producers may not even be involved in this, right? And the cabal is so disjointed right now, in my opinion, they are grasping at straws. So it could be a white hat one to make them look just worse and worse, which is fantastic, but it sure diverted away really well from the narrative that Grassley in Congress just exposed the Hunter Biden laptop live. So nobody was talking about that, right? Nobody was talking about Hillary Clinton being sued by Donald Trump, and there's a RICO portion in that too. So I don't know. I really don't know. I can tell you, though, it sure worked as a fantastic diversion for the stuff we really need to focus on.
And these people are actors. So definitely, they're working on the dark side or for the white hats. Or it could be real. We have no idea. Now, I want to get into the RICO Act. And before we start discussing what the RICO Act is, being used for and how it's going to be used against the deep state, let's just talk about what was the RICO law created for initially, and why would a person use the RICO law for? And then we can go into how it's being used.
Right. So I actually have that definition right here. So thanks for asking that. So here's a definition of the RICO law. It says racketeer, influenced, and corporate organization. So racketeer is the R, influence is the I, corporate is the C, and O equals organization. It's very important that they have that in there. It's Racketeer, Influence, and Corporate Organizations Act. And the RICO is a U.S. federal statute which provides criminal penalties and civil action for any act performed as a part of an ongoing criminal organization. The act also provides certain provisions which enables private parties also to sue. And this is going to be really huge because of what I'm going to bring up in a second. The end of it says the act also provides certain provisions which enables private parties the ability to sue. So I heard on your show, I think it was yesterday, Michael Jaco mentioned the RICO Act. And it sparked me because then I recalled a couple of things. I did a film called Mike Lindell the mother of all lawsuits. And it got removed from YouTube immediately. I think actually the same day. It went up on another channel and got removed. I got taken off of Twitter because of it. Everything you can. So they didn't want it. And all it really was is there's an 82-page lawsuit that he sent to, we'll say, voter software companies. Okay. And it's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit where he's going after them. Now, what's very interesting, so I ended up moving that over to, I think, Rumble, and there's only 122 views. That's crazy because I'd get, of one video, I got upwards of 500,000 views. So for some reason, nobody wanted to pay attention to this. I don't even know if it was suppressed on Rumble, but it's a very, very, very interesting video because I broke down this lawsuit. So what happened is when Michael said that yesterday, it sparked me. I go, wow, I remember Lindell talked about RICO inside that lawsuit. And this is why it's very, very important, because if we go back historically, New York City, and I'm not to offend anybody that's listening to this, it was an absolute crap hole before Giuliani took over. Now, remember, Giuliani is demonized now as a conspiracy theorist, right? But he was lauded as the best mayor that New York ever saw previously. So why is that interesting? Because one of the reasons why he was considered the best, a lot of people think it was because the way he handled the 9/11. I'm not going to go into what my feelings on that are right now. But a lot of people think that. But if you look historically, he was considered the best mayor ever before that. And the reason why is because he used the RICO Act to just absolutely decimate the mob, the mafia, the Italian mobsters. And more. There's also, a lot of people don't know, there's a Jewish mob inside of New York and Las Vegas also, and it's huge. So he absolutely decimated them. He just destroyed them, got rid of them. And the way he did it is with the RICO Act. It's the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. He used that to take their organizations down, and he cleaned up that city where it was one of the best cities in the whole world. People could not wait to go there. Now, after he was gone, the Marxist mayors took over and absolutely did the same thing. They destroyed the city. They cannot have a good city. The Marxists cannot have that because they lose their leverage. They have to have. So if you look at all the horrible cities around the United States with all the corruption and all the crime, they're all Marxist cities. They need that in order to stay in power. And it sounds counterintuitive, but that's what they need in order to hold power. So Giuliani did this. Now, how does Giuliani come into play in this? So in my video, I mentioned that the RICO Act was mentioned several times, but here's what's interesting. The word RICO inside Mike Lindell's lawsuit, and by the way, you guys can find that video on Rumble. By the way, if you're on here on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel because I got kicked off and Veniamin's wonderful enough to have this on YouTube. So just jump over there and subscribe. So listen to this one. This is really interesting. Inside that 82-page document, the word RICO is listed 18 times. 18 times. 4 times that the word is listed by itself, the name RICO, because he's actually using that to destroy the corruption, to take down the cabal. So he's going after these baddies, these ne'er-do-well evildoers. He's using the RICO Act, which is phenomenal. Now, why is that important? Because that's one way we can get in. And plus, as it said at the bottom of this definition I read, it says the act also provides certain provisions which enables private parties also to sue. So that's what he's doing. It's very, very powerful. That's still ongoing. And as we know, they're starting to drop their lawsuits against Giuliani and against Lindell. So the traction, the momentum is on the Lindell side right now. But here's what's interesting. I believe that the white hats use multiple messaging all the time. And I think it's very, very interesting. So remember I mentioned that was listed 18 times within that document, the word RICO, R-I-C-O. Only 4 of them were by itself. 14 times in that lawsuit was listed the word Maricopa. Now, in the middle of Maricopa are the letters R-I-C-O. So we need to focus and pay attention to RICO. I think we need to start digging everything up about RICO, the word RICO we can. Another word that was mentioned inside the lawsuit, and I don't think it's an accident, is Puerto Rico, R-I-C-O. Mm-hmm. Why would that be relevant? Well, if we remember that there's 2 places where we heard about voting machines being burned down. I believe one was Venezuela and destroyed, and another one was Puerto Rico. Interesting. And we know what we've heard about that election and that election being taken over. There's one left. So that equals 17. The 18th time it was mentioned was by a name of a gentleman called Federico, R-I-C-O, Arnault. He is the main, I believe, software engineer for a certain company that does these voting machines. So I think it's phenomenal, and it literally gives me chills when I was reading through this. RICO means a lot more than we think it does. So if we start digging just the word RICO, I think we're going to find it's the actual RICO law, it's Maricopa County, it's Puerto Rico, and it's this guy, Federico. I bet you we're going to find out that he holds the keys. Maybe it'll be some testimony he has, but RICO is the way to go. And it blows me away how that one little 4-letter word is going to become so powerful. In my opinion, that's what it looks like from my reviews.
So let's talk about how it's being used against the deep state, like, Hillary Clinton, against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. So we know what her bad deeds are. So within the RICO Act, it provides criminal penalties for even civil actions, but we know what her actions are criminal. So the key is, even if in some of the things she's done, she may have passed the statute of limitations, right? I need to look into this more, but it looks like if you put it under the RICO Act, there are some statutes that can just be completely erased because it's considered corruption. And that is good, because if she thinks she's going to hide, she can't, because we both know that Trump included that word, RICO, in his lawsuit against her. So this is a massive tool for us to start taking it down. It's going to go over to Hunter next, and then I think that word is going to follow over to the Biden administration. So whether we think these people have been taken out already, everything's done, at least in the public eye, I believe this is the direction we're going, and the RICO Act is going to play a huge part across the board. By the way, this includes the mainstream media also, because it's corruption and it's organizing corruption, and this is what they've done across the board.
Absolutely. Now, one way to determine how long something can take, because we don't like to predict, we don't have dates, it just all goes down to, whenever the job is done. Okay. So one of the ways is to look at history and go back. So for example, when Rudy Giuliani decided that he was going to use the RICO Act to clean up New York, do you know or remember or have any knowledge as to how long it took him to clean New York?
Sure. It's a good point. I don't know, but I knew it didn't take that long. It was a couple of years. But I also do know one thing. There's a lot more obstruction now from the mainstream media and the court systems than there was then. Because the way he first did it is he took down, say, a low-level mob boss, right? So it didn't get much attention. And then another and another. And then he had momentum by there then. And then they had what's probably most important in our judicial system, and I do not agree with it, but most important in our judicial system is precedence. Because what happens is in the United States, judges are, I believe, are lazy and they don't have much courage. So if they're going to rule a certain direction that they think is controversial, they love to have what's called precedence. So that means somebody or a judge already ruled on a similar case, and then they could literally point at that case and say, well, we're using that precedence. So don't look at me. I'm not the bad guy. He already did it, right? So they used precedence in that, which made everything roll a lot quicker. Now, the good news is they can do the same thing with here. They only need one RICO case to go through, and they win it. And then they could use that one as precedence also.
Mm-hmm. I want to also just touch on the climate stuff. Okay, I don't want to say hoax because with that word together, because YouTube might flag that up. But with that situation, I saw Trump was discussing the climate situation, bringing attention, and what he did, he done a very strategic marketing strategy when he was talking about it. And he said the F word. And he knows that if he swears at that time, it's going to bring more viewers at that point of topic, which is going to spread more awareness about that. What do you think about all of that?
I don't have much to say because you're 100% right. That's exactly what that's what he did. He drew attention to that issue. But you know what's interesting, Nick? That guess what? That RICO that I'm talking about is like a massive umbrella. Even the weather people, let's call it that have been selling this hoax to us for so long, that's corruption. And because they're lying to us, it can be proved that they're lying to us. That can fall under the RICO Act also. So these are big deals, and you're absolutely right. He's a lot more calculated than anybody give him credit for. So he's way ahead of us.
So really, the deep state is terrified by this RICO Act.
There's nothing they can do. It's the one. All they can do is have their media puppets, right, come after you. So as soon as somebody would even mention that they're going to go in that direction, so all they're going to do is try to smear their character and take them down. Great example. Just this week, Giuliani and made some wonderful progress in regards to his lawsuit, in regards to the lawsuit against him with one of the software companies, but you didn't hear about that. What you heard about is one of his associates, I don't know if he was indicted, but one of his associates, I believe, are being held accountable for some type of corruption or whatever. And that's what the media focused on. So if anybody wants to say that the white hats have already won and they're completely in control, I don't buy that narrative. I buy the fact that they clearly are winning and they're in control of a lot. But this is a process. And I love to tell people to say, be patient and understand the process, but they shoot right back at me. Well, I lost my job and I'm not going to be able to eat next week and so on and so forth. I go, yeah, you know what? It's horrible. I get it. But there's a lot of pain that we're going to have to go through to fix this. This is not a 4-year war. This is a multi-millennial war that's been going on for a long, long time.
Lewis, for 2 years, a lot of people in this community have been waiting for the EBS, the Emergency Broadcast System, which is where all of our devices, including televisions and phones, will be completely frozen, blackout, and we would see the testimonies, all of us live 8 hours a day, and the public will know the truth, which will be a very big reveal and a very big shock. But you're saying that that's not the case, and they've got another tactic towards that. Do you want to explain to us why you think that?
Sure. First, if I remember correctly, in the drops, let's call them, the emergency broadcast system was mentioned one time, I believe. And right after that, if I remember correctly, it was in parentheses EMS, not EBS, which means emergency management system. again, I go to that. So if you go through the drops and do a search and pull up EMS, there's a multitude of things that you can find. So to me, that could be another code for what they meant in regards to the reveals, just like RICO can be used in a multifaceted way. But that being said, I believe, and I've been saying this for a year, and a year ago, people just said, I'm wacky. Now they're saying, oh, you may have something there. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? We're always proven right or proven wrong. So I've been saying forever, I believe we're going to go through a bottom-up reveal process. And then if there's an EBS, we're going to get to that. And I wrote some notes here, but let me tell you what I believe that bottom-up reveal process looked like. The originators of the reveal, and it could go back farther than this, but let's look, they could have been like a David Icke and a Bill Cooper, right? And it kind of moved to a Carrie Cassidy and then a Janet Osbar, and then people like Nicholas Alver and Michael Jaco, myself, and so on and so forth. So it's moving from a certain realm to different truthers, right? Not to discount Carrie Cassidy and David Icke because they're still doing a great job. But my point is, so it's getting more mainstream as it goes. And I think this is on purpose. And then it goes, as I predicted, it would go to the local news media. It's exactly what's going on. This is why I was screaming at the top of my lungs, truckers, go to your local state capitals and city and so on and so forth, because you're going to get local news media attention, because the national news media is never going to give you any attention. They didn't do it, still love them, still support them. But I just think that was a miscalculation. Anyways, but the local news media has been revealing like crazy. If people would just do a little research, you're going to find. Now, it may not be your local news media, but certainly is happening all over, even in Los Angeles. So that's crazy. And then the next level, which I predicted, could look like more of the controlled opposition people. So that would be, say, an Alex Jones, a Joe Rogan. It's up in the air whether Candace Owens is controlled op, but those are the type of people. I said, that's going to be your next type of reveal. That's what's going on. And then the next type would be the people that were on mainstream media that got pushed out of mainstream media. I forgot what her name is, but there's a one from CBS that does a phenomenal job.
Moss?
No, she's another one, by the way. No, one right before April Moss. She was a few months before April Moss. And then after those, there's the Laura Logan, which I think everybody needs to pay attention to, because she has nails on revealing the corruption like you've never seen it before. She will not take any crap. She was just in an interview a couple of weeks ago with two former Fox News people, one that got pushed out because they said I believe he was acting sexual with people, but I think they pushed him out for another reason. So that's the level that it's at right now. And then I said, you're going to start seeing interviews on mainstream medias like a CNN and so on and so forth, where the anchor may not have that same revelation, but the person they're interviewing will start doing reveals. All of this is coming to play, right? And then you'll see something like, and I wrote this down, if you just a couple of days ago, Howard Kurtz on Sunday Morning Fox News revealed what Virginia Thomas, Clarence Thomas' wife, said on a text. Now, of course, he prefaced it with something like, this is her conspiracy, or she's crazy, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It still hit the mainstream media, and it gets people to think. And what she was talking about is the fact that there may be a barge off of an island near Cuba that are holding political prisoners, which would be our deep state. I think I said that enough to keep you on this channel, and people get it. That's what she said in her text message. And that text message was from Virginia Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, to Mark Meadows, right? Very important. These are all reveals, right? And then what did you see? Just when the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock thing's going out, you have Chuck Grassley and Jim Jordan and more in Congress exposing Hunter's laptop. So I say, what's going to be next? I think you'll probably see a Tucker type person do some major reveals, right? And the coup de grace, and this is, I know this sounds really weird to everybody, but here's where I think it's going to go next. And I believe this is Trump set it up, and I'll explain why. I think the end before there will be an EMS or EBS, if there is one, will be a CNN or a New York Times, believe it or not, doing the reveals. And here's why I think that's going to happen. The two most demonized organizations by Trump in regards to fake news were CNN and the New York Times. So what he's done is he's positioned those as the go-to anti-deep state news networks. What that means, though, is so all the eyes that watch them are people that don't believe there's a deep state. Mm-hmm. So where can you finally convince the people that don't believe there's a deep state? You'd have to do it on the networks that they watch. So in my opinion, I don't know when, because I don't predict dates, but it could be within a month or more or less. We'll see that CNN and New York Times will start doing some major disclosures. And I say if, there is going to be an EBS, it would follow that, because now what we've done is we've acclimated the public to this whole process. If we would have launched the EBS, right, before Trump was ejected out of office falsely, right, it would have just been anarchy. And I really believe the whole time they've been trying to save some lives in the background as much as they possibly can. But now we've been acclimated. There's more and more people waking up. And I know this because I talk to people on the streets and my wife almost every day. We constantly reaching out. And I can tell you that people are calling me back and searching me out and her to say, wow, things are really weird. Can you tell me what's going on? What's your opinion of what's going on? Mm. I know you're connected. This is very important because I sincerely believe we are passing the momentum phase and we are going right into the reveals. And I think there's a lot more, and we only have a couple of days left in this month.
Absolutely. Just a quick note as well on Truth Social. Are you on Truth Social yet?
I am on Truth Social, and I've already been censored on Truth Social.
Are you serious? Explain to us how that was possible.
So I had to figure it out. So I talked about a certain KZ mafia inside of Ukraine, what's going on. And I believe I'm getting some mentoring from some other Truth Social that supposedly in their algorithm, they don't allow the word Jewish. And I wasn't even talking derogatory about the Jews, but supposedly that was it. So both times I put up a post, a pretty deep investigative post of what was going on over in that other country. And supposedly because it had that word in it, it was rejected. Now, unfortunately, I get a lot of people knee-jerk, go right on the defensive. I'm not bashing Truth Social, right? That's not my goal here. I hope it's everything that we think it is. I can tell you right now, though, that their algorithm seems to be censoring. Hopefully, Devin Nunes will get on top of that and make the correction. And maybe, just maybe, because we know Israel's last, maybe they're intentionally not wanting to draw attention to that yet. So I'm trying to think positive about it right now.
Yeah, my username is @nicholas.veniamin. So anyone working at Truth Social, please get me on there because I'm still on the waiting list. What do you think about that, Lewis? Why am I still on the waiting list? And it's the 29th of March.
Well, I think clearly I'm a bigger name than you. So that's why they put me on there. I have no idea, man. I'm hearing people that they jumped on, got right on. Some people got the waiting list. Some people got like almost re-weighted on the waiting list, whatever that means. They thought they were going on and then they got pushed back again. I was shocked when I got the notification that I was on. I have no idea. I believe they want to really vet the people. I'm hoping that their goal is to try to keep the deep state out of there as much as possible, keep the trolls off there. It's going to be a tough go for them to do it like that for sure, but hopefully that's what their goal is.
Do you think there are still people on the waiting list?
Oh, absolutely. I hear every day that people are on the waiting list.
Well, I feel much better now.
Yeah, every day. You're not being singled out.
Absolutely. Well, Lewis, it's been great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Most of my films are on Rumble, but I always put notifications and things on YouTube. So if you can pop over to YouTube, you'll see some of my films. I am a filmmaker. I've done a lot of films. And I've been obviously kicked off YouTube, but I'm under my own name now, Lewis Herms, but I'm sure Nick will have the link below. You have a wonderful audience, Nick, and I always appreciate my time with you.
You too. Thank you so much. And we'll speak very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.